you're not doing anything. But we look at this, it was never God's intention for us to be struggling, for us having to hustle for a dollar, as some would say, for us have to hustle to make ends meet. But right in this same Sunday, Revelations 21 verse 1, it's a part, it's a part of message. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. There's hope. That is the pinnacle of what we are here right now trying to be able to see one day.
So just to make a point that working is actually a blessing from God. Working is actually a blessing from God. In the garden, we were created to keep and dress the garden. So working was always part of humanity's purpose, but in the beginning, it was just a joyful work. After the curse, it became struggled work, because if, I believe it's Patriarchs and Prophet explains it, if we did not have the struggle to work, our mind would be idle to do much in greater sense. So God blessed us by giving us, it seems like a curse, by the sweat of thy brow that shall work, but out of that curse was a blessing to keep our mind occupied and not sin greater than we could have been sinning if we didn't have the work.
Amen. Amen. And we go to Monday's lesson.
Okay, so I hope you guys don't mind, but I feel like before I can really get into a lesson, I have to tell a story, so hold on. So for my 22nd birthday, right, I had a friend, and she gifted me a plant. It was a Echeveria Pearl von Nurnberg. It's a succulent, really pretty, has purplish, pinkish leaves, and I love this plant because it was my first plant ever, and I was on my plant mommy journey, and I was so excited. Well, one day I went out to water my plant, and I saw a bunch of bugs on it. Back then, the and bugs do not agree, okay? Like, you can keep them bugs, I'll take the plant. And I was confused, because I'm just like, where all of these bugs come from? And the way that it had attacked this plant, it looked like it was sudden. So this wasn't just one little bug, oh, the bug flipped them off. Like, no, this was like overnight, bunch of bugs out of nowhere. So research. Turns out that this was a pest that normally attacks succulents, but this particular pest normally comes from neighboring plants. And there was this plant beside it, which was for my neighbors, I believe. And I remember like looking on the plant and finding those same bugs on it. So that led me to believe that because of proximity, because my plant was beside this plant with all the pests on it, the pests were like, new home, let's go. And it reminded me so much, well, it ties into the story of Abraham, because one of the things that the lesson highlights is the fact that Abraham, he left out of his father's household. If anybody knows, Abraham grew up in an idolatrous household. I believe there are people who said that his father Terah was not only a worshiper of idols, but he also made idols and he sold idols. So I'm thinking about that, right? We know the 10 Commandments. God says, hey, you're not finna out here be worshiping anybody except me. If you're worshiping anybody except me, that is called idolatry, and I'm not with it. So imagine, he's in this household filled with idolatry, filled with people who are worshiping other gods. And I think that's exactly why God said, listen, you got to get up and go, because I want to bless you, but I can't bless you right now because you're around all of this idolatry. And we see time and time again within the biblical narrative where before God does a work, especially of restoration, he first has to remove the idolatry. We see in the book of Judges 7 with Gideon, where the agent goes to Gideon and he's like, listen, mighty man of valor. And Gideon's like, listen, I don't know who you're talking to, but it's not me. And he's like, listen, mighty man of valor, right? And after a conversation with the angel, one of the first instructions that God gives Gideon is like, listen, you see that over there? Yeah, that's called an idol. I need you to tear it down. So Gideon goes by night and he tears it down. And that's when God basically like gives Gideon the supernatural